Phil Spencer, no red line on games, Xbox. Keep coping, keep begging, eat more salt. Wait till you play Spidey TLOU Go GT on Xbox. Until then, keep drowning on your delusions. Wow, now that's a little harsh. What did I do? What did I say? What did anybody do? What did anybody say? All I said was that PlayStation, having gone into the lion's den to try to eat its cake and have it by playing exclusivity without being exclusive, has pretty much given the entire thing away to Xbox, because now what Xbox is doing is it's going to pretty much go ahead and cop Windows as its own ecosystem. Therefore, those so-called PlayStation exclusives, right, which have not been exclusive for a number of years now in some cases, actually in many cases, are now pretty much going to be playable on an Xbox. You see, I don't think anybody really understands the ramifications of this to, I guess the farthest extent. We can talk about the ramifications that we all can see, but how does this even look down the road? We're not necessarily aware yet, but I can go ahead and throw a few things out there because that comment is indicative of something that I think is quite strange, to be very honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. I got to tell you, that one's an interesting one. Very strange the way the comment actually showed up. Because these PlayStation games have been, they've been in existence for a minute now. And a user of mine says something very interesting in the exact same video, by the way. Shout out to you, Biscuit. Biscuit in, I don't know, in whatever this, I don't know. You just mashed it up together. You said, elephant in the room. Microsoft isn't worried about console sales because Windows has already outsold everyone. If this is not the elephant in the room that is causing a lot of this reaction that's coming from a lot of these spots, I really don't know what else to say, because see, all this while you all were supporting this, you were fine with it. Maybe you didn't necessarily cheer it on, but you were okay with it, right? Because in your mind, as long as the game didn't go to Xbox, anything else that you chose to believe, was true to you, which that's not how truth works. Truth has to be true to everything. It has to truthfully touch everything equally. It has to be assessed by everything equally. And it has to be the truth, come rain, come sunshine. Days Gone, the moment it hit the PC platform, was no longer an exclusive. PlayStation was already third party. This conversation of full third party and half third party and all that stuff, that was already a foregone conclusion. What's even crazy, and many people probably don't want to go ahead and talk about this, or maybe we've forgotten, or we pretend that we've forgotten, is that when Insomnia got hacked, a PC build of Marvel Spider-Man 2 was literally sitting there. I don't know if it would have been a similar files or whatever it is, and then it got into the hands of pirates. They were able to go back and rebuild it, and people were able to play that game months before it ever showed up on Steam. That to me was crazy, that many people didn't see how simple it is when a company like PlayStation has the resources, has whatever it needs to pretty much make such a move, and pretty much was just sitting on it because they want to present what I think and have always thought was just a mirage. Exclusivity is a mirage. That's why I always kind of laughed at the notion that people thought somewhere, somehow, something being exclusive gave it some kind of an inherent value. Or, like you would hear people say, oh, exclusives have this inherent quality to them when it comes down to the game. Because, you can just make the game for one particular platform. And I say to myself, one particular platform is your console. But the platform that actually allows for you to make the game is PC. The moment the game is made, you already have a PC build for the game. It's not even a question of, how you're going to go buy this. It's not even a question of, is this, all this talk about optimization and all that stuff. If you've already optimized for the PlayStation 5, inherently the hardware should not necessarily be way too far off. Look at Detective Seed saying PlayStation PC ports will begin coming faster going forward. 6 months is the new aim, and PC is the targeted platform to port to. Now, this is kind of interesting that Detective Seeds is coming back to say this, but when asked about who's doing the work, Game Logic asks, who's doing the work? Nixxes, Blueprint, Iron Galaxies, Virtuous, Aspire, or are they taking it out of the hide in the first-party studios? And Detective C says, I only know right now. Guabzilla asks and says, source, a person at Nixxes. Hold on, Detective Seeds. If my recollection is correct, I thought you said somebody in Nixxes said that they weren't actively working on any PC ports. How has the whole parade changed so fast? Because if they're looking at a 6-month window, Ghost of Yote comes out pretty soon. Hold on. When is Ghost of Yote's release date? October 2nd, 2025. Ooh. So 6 months from October 2025, if the game has already gone gold, there's a PC build in existence. The game is built on PC. That's how it works, right? With the game being built on PC, it already has a PC build because they would have been doing a lot of testing and all kinds of fun stuff, or, quick play, quick, access in terms of quick testing and such on a PC build. All they have to do is pretty much go ahead and, run an EXE build or MSI or whatever, you can submit to Steam or package whatever the heck it is you want to do. So somewhere, somehow, Nixxes might be getting some kind of a build or assessing how they're going to go about working on the build and completing it with the time frame. If this leak that you are claiming or if this information that you've just gotten is actually true. And this is what's very interesting. Look now at the age restriction, incidents that's coming from legislators and such. It's weird when it comes down to it, right? It's weird when it comes down to it because, as I've been saying with GTA is going to find it very interesting when it's time for that game to launch. Because now many of these companies don't really have that risk tolerance that they want to sit on for you to possibly buy a box, whereas you can pretty much play the most played games anywhere else. I hope we're starting to see this whole thing rend apart. And meanwhile, as they're rushing to take these things to PC, they still dance into the hands of Xbox. Because the Xbox is now the platform for gaming when it comes to... Windows is now the platform for gaming when it comes to Xbox. In that regard, it doesn't even really matter anymore. They just go ahead and we're just going to put it on PC. And Xbox is like, we're just going to use Windows for Xbox. So PlayStation has basically been playing this game, and I think now the gig is up. Which, to me, this is a great thing. As now they get to make money and they get to be competitive. I've always wanted to see the back and forth and the tit for tat of PlayStation games going against Xbox games day one on the Steam platform. I've always wanted to see how that spout would end up. I wanted to see truly what gamers on PC actually value when it comes to these two games. It's always been curious to me because, there's always been a conversation of, the Xbox games and all this stuff. They don't make games that are like PlayStation games and blah, 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 blah. Right? But I'm like, let's let the PC user who is sitting there pretty decide. So look at this. As Ghost of Tsushima basically made its way to Director's Cut May 16, 2024, right? After its launch, I think in 2019, it was almost a 4-ish year launch or something like that. And it made its way to Steam. However, you look at, a game like Spider-Man 2, that one made its way to Steam in a much shorter time. Right? From October 2023, it was already there, January 2025. I just don't see how PlayStation is interested in sitting on these titles that many of the PlayStation users aren't necessarily interested in. It's not that these games aren't, appealing to a specific customer base. I don't think anybody has ever talked about or disparaged, or I myself anyways, I don't disparage these games as a whole. Maybe I'll have a problem with a few titles here or there, but these PlayStation games, some of them have been my favorite games that I've ever played. Right? But there's nothing that someone like myself can really do when a huge chunk of players are constantly playing a set of games that, for the most part, put these games on the back burner when it comes down to it. You got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that this is a very unique situation that PlayStation finds itself in. It really is. And honestly, the only way that they can get themselves out of a situation like this, in my honest opinion, is to go back to making games that are sensibly budgeted. But with the big name games, I don't think it's going to cut it. I strongly believe that it's more than likely not going to cut it. There is no wow factor anymore, especially in an ecosystem where 40% of gaming playtime is sucked up by all of this. Let me give you an example. I just got back from work a few hours ago. Do you know what I played? I played Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat. Played Street Fighter 6 with my son. Played a few games of Mortal Kombat online. And that's as much gaming I think I'm probably going to be able to do if I'm going to catch some good sleep. Am I right? Knowing this, all that Devil May Cry collection that I bought is still going to then be sitting in the backlog. As much as I want to play it, I could take my handheld with me to anywhere that I'm going. I cannot game enough to be able to catch up on the backlog that I have. Imagine if I was a Fortnite player, or I played Roblox, or I played Minecraft, or Marvel Rivals was my thing. Or I was getting off of work and the guys were like, hey man, let's all get in on, a game of Destiny, which I don't play Destiny, but I played a little bit, back in the day. Right? I'd want to get on and hang out and chat. And there are many of us that are like that. We're just sitting down around like a campfire. That's how it is. Online, chats. And we're playing our favorite live service games with the people that we know, people that we want to just, hang out with, talk with for a short bit of time. That is the gaming culture and has always been the gaming culture for a very long time. Parties of 4, party chat of 8, all of these community-based aspects have been inherently, anyways, enjoyed by many of us. Look at your own personal gaming behavior when you've beaten your favorite single-player game. What do you go back to do? It's this behavior that has now become the norm. Having been in a culture where we've had to sit to wait 6-8 years for, one game, all that excitement, all those years. I mean, you want to play games with your buddies. Have you ever tried playing a single-player game with a bunch of guys in a chat? It's enjoyable and not enjoyable at the same time because bro is over there, you're over here. You're like, I haven't gotten here. And then you eventually log out or something. But once that game is all done, you're happy to get back to farming or doing whatever the heck it is you were doing in your own little game that you were playing with everybody, with the bros, getting more weapons, getting better gear, and so on and so forth. I just can't imagine how those who do this somehow advocated for the opposite. A very interesting observation. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Peace out.